All right. It's that boom bap breakfast right here, right now. Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. In case you didn't know, that's right. This is the Beige Brigade. I am the one that called the ear doctor. And please let you know, and everybody know, that in the building we have Dr. Ball.
What's up, good people?
We good.
I love it. Keep it reverberating. Yeah, keep it going. I'm in the building. My one part of the Beige Brigade. Happy to be back with you. Loving it. Here comes another one.
Major. We need to make it a little major. Oh, no other than Kamal K. Franklin.
It's already in the chat too. The Beige brothers. I see it. The Beige Brigade.
That's it.
I like it.
That's
I like it. Oh, I think I'm darker than the rest of you guys.
I think it depends on the day and the lighting. But since we're already there, I do want to say this. I already sent Dr. Malefe Asante an email following up to get him on for an interview. And in that email, I apologized to him. Straight up. I apologized to him for even entertaining the criticism of Omawale Africa, in part because I had not read this book yet, and the criticisms of Afrocentricity International seem not to relate to this book, despite some of the claims made. So far from defending queer theory, as is the claim against Asante and now me by extension, the book has very different things to say about where the Afrocentric worldview sits as it regards to gender, sexuality, et cetera, and so forth, and offers really a race-first, African-centered analysis in part of some of that, but is really more about an African-centered or Afrocentric critique of white supremacy and Eurocentricity. So I owe Dr. Asante an apology, and I apologize here publicly again for that, and I will do so when he and Dr. Dove come on to talk about the book. So whatever people have to say about the book, and I'm not on Asante's team or camp 100% by any means, but just on that point, that I think needs to be clarified. What was said about this book on my show and apparently elsewhere seems lacking in substance. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. We'll be continuing to follow up with that, you know.
Well, how was y'all weekend?
Mine was dope.
Yeah.
How was yours?
Mine was good. I DJ'd a party, a birthday party for my boy Mwali Davis, a lawyer here. I actually took my kids out to the mall, let them walk around while I sat in the food court, which was like some old school parents. And what else? Oh yeah, Sundays, man. Big up to everybody came out Sundays. The house set. My brother Shy Professor came through. It was dope. So great weekend.
I caught it late.
About your weekend, I got complaints about your weekend. First of all, I know Mwali Davis. Where's my invite, B? I got one invite to a Christmas party 8 years ago. That's my man.
What?
We fellow lawyers. Where's my invite? Two.
What?
I'm not done with my critique of his weekend. Two, house party. I'm not down with the house. You know what I'm saying? Can you just hip hop all night long, R&B all night long?
Oh, you're tripping.
I don't want no. I'm sorry. He's beige number two. This is the beige brother number three, because I'm obviously beige brother number one. Seniority.
Well, I guess by that metric.
Yeah, by age, you right.
Yeah.
Age in here.
But the house joint, I caught it late, as in this morning, and it was dope. And the Soho into Stevie Wonder. Well done. Delicious. Now, there is one other thing I saw in the chat where David Soberg said, I owe you all an apology, as in the audience, for having that dude on. Let me say this to everybody, because there was a couple comments that I saw from the last Not By Myself edition from Monday that aired. I don't owe anybody an apology for nothing along those lines. Take the body of work from me and this channel in context. It is unmatched in its breadth and wonder and radicalism. So if there is an occasional substandard appearance or interview or discussion, I'm not apologizing for that. You're welcome for all the other unmatched content. Let's reverse that joint and get back on track. Anyway.
Did y'all, you know what I did see? I saw the conversation with what's Kwanzaa man's name again? What's his name? Why is his name Karanga, which was actually a good discussion, even if, like, you know, and there's certain things about his politics, which I think, because for so long, I've only spoken to Panthers about this, and Panthers have various Panthers, and have a very strong view of who he is and what he does. And, you know, at least some things that he said, I was like, oh, if I take him at his word, of course, we're like, oh, I didn't know it went down like that. Or the claim is that some people said this. So I thought that was, like you said, within the breadth, the pantheon of Black radical nationalist leftist thought. Where you gonna go?
Now, it's funny you mentioned that, because my phone rang off the hook like I hosted Karanga. And then yesterday, I got a call from Daruba asking about why was Tariq Nasheed being discussed. He didn't get into the Karanga thing, but he asked about Tariq Nasheed. Everybody else I know seemed to call me about Karanga. And I was like, look, man, I had nothing to do with that. More power to Brother Sudiana. He, you know, holler at him. So anyway, but
no, I think you're still gonna get blamed for anything on the channel, which I like. For that, I appreciate.
Sure, no doubt. No doubt.
I wasn't even gonna give old boy no shine today, but yeah, man, I didn't like how he disrespected your name, Kamal. I didn't like the certain things that were being said. And who did that? Come on, man, that ain't right. That is not right. Take that off the screen.
So the only thing I will say about old boy, I'm not saying much, because I feel like I don't know the dude that well, but you know, I was asked to be, I met him through Kalonji, asked to be on a conference of his. He called several times, emailed thousands of times. I agreed, I did it. In the background, he's emailed me, asking me for personal in fact, asking me, could I put him in touch with Black Panthers? And so grateful and thankful for when I do it. I've been on other programs with him where the topic came up, not necessarily queer theory, but in general, how queer folks are taking their rightful place in terms of leadership and being a part of the movement, where I said what I said. And I think his only response was kind of like, he got to look more into it. Perfect opportunity if he wanted to challenge. So I don't appreciate, the fact that this person who claims to have, and who's been on my show when we have Renegade Culture. So this person who claims to have all this respect, and I didn't say anything to him.
What y'all doing?
My rant.
Bazak.
I will interrupt my rant. But now you're messing up the beige flow, though. You know what
I'm sorry.
No, that's the only problem. That's the only problem.
That's
Hold
the
on.
only
Let
thing.
me.
I
Okay,
want
there
to know.
Hey, thanks, Jackie. It was too light on the screen. I catch you on the break.
Peace.
Jackie's back.
I was just gonna say that. So I'm just disappointed that somebody would, instead of just having a conversation, because I didn't say anything about him personally, would just put together some Hackney show and say all that BS and whatever, So that's it. That's all I got to say about it. Jackie from Venezuela.
What's up, Jackie?
Ooh, what I miss? What dirt did I miss?
Not a damn thing.
What I'm saying. We missed you, though. We missed you.
No question.
I missed you.
Yes, I know. Come out. Yeah. I got to tell you, it's every time I go out of the country, I don't like coming back. It's just, and one of those times, I'm just not.
You can feel it as you cross back into Babylon's airspace. You can start to feel the tension. It's like, the crushing weight. It's like,
oh my God! It's like I can feel the stupidity and the individualism and it's just Venezuela was dope. Venezuela was, I went as a representative for the Black Alliance for Peace, and I just kind of sat back and observed as much as I could. And I got to tell you, man, we're doing revolution wrong up in this piece. We're not on our game like we should be. Not that theirs is perfect, but the point is revolution is a process, and it always has to be defended. And just every time I go to, and I'm around revolutionary minded folks in other countries that are fighting imperialism, and they're the targets of imperialism, I come back here and I just get pissed off at the petty beefs we have internally. And it just, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
That's exactly where we were. So Jackie went to Venezuela and I went directionally and ideologically yesterday in the exact opposite direction, and spent the day with the family visiting a class in the campus at Yale University.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was interesting, although it turned out to be really good in the sense that a lot of the tension my oldest is facing as she started to think about applying was relieved. And that was one of the goals, to say, once you see these people in person, they're far less intimidating and impressive. So we left the campus and she was like, that's it. I got this. Exactly. So it was, but shout out to Ebony Reed and Louise Story for inviting me to their race and money class to talk a little bit about the myth of Black buying power, which was dope. And it was interesting because they had also interviewed the chief financial officer of the Greenwood Bank Initiative, led at least symbolically by Killer Mike. And they and one gem that they shared was that when this person was asked, is Greenwood Bank in fact Black owned, would not give an answer.
Because it's not.
So, and as we've reported here, 40 of the $43 million has come from Bank of America, JP Morgan, and et cetera, Wall Street initiatives.
Because capitalizing off of Black movement, Black history, Black resistance, Black oppression is just what capitalism does. And we have people who are the gateway for that. Yeah.
But it was fun to be in a Yale classroom. You could see that's where all the money and the power is. Like, there was more money invested in that classroom than I think in the entirety of Morgan State University. You could just feel the wealth sort of dripping off of everything. And but it was kind of funny to I had never been there in this kind of capacity. So it was kind of funny to be in there and to be asked, so what do you think should happen? And I was revolution. And I did tell people in the class, and they were like, well, what should we do? And I was like, well, I don't know what y'all do, but I've joined Community Movement Builders and Pan-African Community Action and Black Alliance for Peace and All African People's Revolutionary. I was just listening. I was like, you know.
And they're sweating like so much Africanness.
Who the fuck did we let up in here? Whoops. Anyway. Speaking of who do we let up in this joint?
Again? Oh.
The ear doctor.
Damn, Jackie.
What? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Some things you don't have to say out your mouth.
That's true. I'm sorry.
Nah, I'm just playing, man. Yo, so let's go ahead and get to the weather, because I'm interested to hear all y'all thoughts on news and this, that, and the third. So let's get to the weather right here, right now on the Remix Morning Show. All right.
The remix.
All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and thank y'all for tuning in. If you are tuned in, which you are because you hear the sound of my voice, please make sure y'all hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, share it, let somebody know that it is going down right now. Go to patreon.com, drop some change in the bucket, and yes, guess what, y'all? Tomorrow is our 1-year anniversary of the Remix Morning Show. So thank y'all for being here for this whole year and watching us grow. Without y'all, it would not be possible. So appreciate y'all, no doubt. Now, with that said, let's get to the weather. All right, let's take y'all to Montgomery, Alabama, which funny, someone in the chat just said they haven't been out the country unless you talk about Alabama. Funny. I used to stay in Montgomery, Alabama. Big up to Alabama State. They got a high today of 67 degrees. Next, let's take it over to Roswell, New Mexico, where you can find an alien holding a glass of water, poisonous water, as some would say. They got a high today of 84 degrees. Next, let's take it over to Jersey City, New Jersey. Big up to Jersey City. My people, Jamil, they got a new juice bar opening up called Juicy City. Big up to them. They got a high today of 51 degrees. Next, let's take it over to Myrtle Beach. That's right, South Kakalaki, where I go sometimes to go get on the beach and chill out because it's like a 4-hour drive or something like that. You know, Atlanta's landlocked, so we can't really see no water. All right, they got a high of 62 degrees. Next, let's take it over to Honolulu, Hawaii. They got a high today of 78 degrees. And San Francisco, California got a high of 59. And last but not least, Detroit, Michigan, where it snowed 2 days ago. Like Prince says, sometimes it snows in April. High today of 45 degrees. Now that right there, my friend, is cold. But I tell you who's cold. Colder than the white man. This man right here, Steph Curry. Oh my God, if you ain't see it last night, dude, 34 points, averaging 25 points. This dude is a beast right now. Let me tell you, he can shoot from anywhere on the court. He runs. You know how in those movies, the coach runs the whole team. He's like, coach, we can't run no more. Listen, that's what he does. He outruns you on the court and you can't do nothing about it. And you're winded and you lose. I got them for winning the whole thing. That's what it is. Colder than the white man, that boy right there. Now, let's take it back to the Remix Morning Show. Now we go. Come on. Yeah.
I was going to my man in Birmingham. You didn't leave America. You really in America. You're in Birmingham. That is America.
Real America, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Birmingham.
I came back from Venezuela kind of salty. I've been salty for a couple of days. Sorry.
I'm not mad. Every time yeah. And it's hard not to. It's hard to see what life could get like if this place wasn't doing all of its things. And then come back and just be like, ugh.
That's your weather report. I'll catch you on that break.
Peace.
Right on. Thanks, ear doctor.
So
Anyway,
about to win another championship.
Huh?
I honestly don't know.
Oh, you're not even following that a little bit? I'll ask the ear doctor when he comes back. It sounds
I
like
have almost
win again.
Yeah, I've almost completely checked out of all US based sports.
For soccer? I'm sorry, for soccer?
International soccer, man. World football. That's the Manchester United, Liverpool later today. You know what I mean? It's about to be. It's big. It's big.
You know what I did on the way? I actually watched an entire rugby match, and it was quite entertaining. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was great.
Yeah, a lot of big people with low centers of gravity beating on each other. I wonder why Jackie might like that.
What exactly you're trying to say? Just go ahead and say
I don't know. I'm scared of you with your low center of gravity. That's all I'm saying. It's scary. It's threatening. I feel threatened.
It's real threat.
Well, I don't fight fair, so
that's what I'm saying. That's the other thing. I feel threatened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But look, the only thing around here getting slapped and to feel threatened is that map. That's the only thing that needs to be scared around these parts is that map. So let's slap it. Jackie, would you want to get us started with more of an update from your trip or a discussion of your trip, or should we let you catch up and recover from your return to Babylon a little bit more before we get started on any of that?
No, I mean, I can do a little quick update because I honestly, I was out of the US news loop for a week and it was absolutely fabulous. It was so wonderful not to know what this shithole of a country was doing. Because when, Venezuela is a, just like every country, it has contradictions. But I think the most disconcerting thing, I've got a show Wednesday night at 7 o'clock where I'm going to be talking to Carlos Ron, who is the uh, vice ambassador for foreign affairs, vice minister for foreign affairs to the U.S. for Cuba, and really, really dope guy. And the most disconcerting thing, but the most hopeful thing, was attending the Militia Day parade, which is the commemoration of the people overturning the 2002 coup that the U.S. backed in Venezuela, where Hugo Chavez was kidnapped. And the news media all coalesced to claim that he had renounced the presidency, but they had really kidnapped him. And the attorney general managed to get in to see him, and he wrote a letter. Chavez literally wrote a letter saying, "I, Hugo Chavez, who was duly elected president of the people of Venezuela by the grace of God, have not renounced the presidency." And the attorney general goes on a news show, which they were expecting him to say, "Chavez, yes, I spoke to Chavez and he renounced." But he goes on live television and he says, and this is after like a day of the media in Venezuela claiming that Chavez had renounced. And then the next day, all the morning shows are saying that we have a new president and it's wonderful. And then the whole following day, all of the news stations played cartoons because they did not want to deal with, the media dictatorship was facilitating this coup. So they have this live broadcast. The attorney general, they're getting a statement from the attorney general, and he says President Chavez has not renounced. And that's all he got out because they cut the feed, but that was all the people needed to take to the streets. And that is what they did. So it was the people who literally faced down the right wing, the fascists, and the US support in Venezuela to overturn that coup in 2002. So every year, the people in Venezuela and the military and the militias that were formed out of that movement and out of Chavez's revolution when he won the election in 1998 by a landslide, by the way. It was just disconcerting to see the military and the police chanting, the people united will never be defeated, and, fight for socialism along with the people who were fighting for socialism, right? Because that's not the relationship we have with the military or the police in this country. So that was very disconcerting, but it was also very, very hopeful, not hopeful in a way that I think anything is going to change in this country in relation to our relationship to the forces of the state. What was hopeful to me was understanding what the state is and what the state could be if we make it that, right? And that just kind of blew my mind. So I mean,
Jackie, just interrupt as we ponder the possibilities of the state. I do have to agree with KD. We don't want to ruin this great story with
what's going on
with the earbud hitting the mic, or is hitting your necklace.
The necklace.
Okay. Well, let me take it off because I don't want anybody to get jealous.
Right, let's not get jealous and commit audio crimes. But we do have to remember, Jackie, that no elected official has been more supported than this country's beloved Joe Biden. So when you talk about all the support Chavez got in Venezuela, let's not lose sight of the fact of all of this overwhelming support that we see for Biden and all the greatness being provided here. But anyway, when we ponder the possibilities of the state, we're living its highest, most elevated.
We're living in a
dream.
revolutionary state anyway.
I mean, that was like the wild thing. I was like talking to some people about the idea of revolution and seeing that revolution is a process, because it's a process, because it's always going to be challenged by the right. It always will. If it's a true people's revolution, it will always be challenged by the right and by capitalists. So, which led me to question, like, this revolution that this country claimed it had. It wasn't a people's revolution, if you didn't know that by now. I mean, it was a revolution of the capitalists. It was a revolution of the oligarchs. It was
a revolt against
right.
the motherland order. It wasn't even a revolution, because it wasn't like a class was overturned.
Right.
The American class just took possession of the governmental apparatus, but we're already right. Washington was already like one of the richest, if not richest, first people in the colony. So it was, So it's not. It wasn't a revolution, because the people didn't overthrow the government. The local elites overthrew the elites from the other land. Yeah.
Right. And so what Chavez did when he was elected was he campaigned among the poor people, the indigenous, the Afro-Venezuelans, who he identified with, right? He was clear on who he was and where his solidarity lie. And he told those people, look, we need socialism because you need socialism, because you need healthcare, and I'll raise your standard of living. So all of these working class and poor people and indigenous Venezuelans and Afro-Venezuelans voted for Chavez in the landslide, and that's exactly what he did. He gave people health care for the first time in that country. They never had it. People who didn't have money, who didn't have stable living conditions, he provided those things for those people. So even after his death, I think he died in 2013, if you encounter people on the street in the neighborhood where his tomb and the fort is, because his tomb is inside the fort, in the neighborhood. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood. You encounter people in Venezuela who are Chavistas, and they would like, he is almost like, he is an icon to them. He is their hero. That is not an understatement for those people, because he pretty much saved millions of people's lives in Venezuela just by providing for their basic human rights. And this last thing, and I'll the last two things really, and I'll stop. The first thing is, it's while going to Venezuela and going to Caracas and hearing all of the things that people say, the capitalists say about Venezuela, oh, it's a failed state and they have poverty and blah, blah, blah. Yes, there are, because you have to understand the right wing still exists in that country. There are still opposition forces in the government. And a lot of Venezuela is owned by private corporations. The state does not control everything in Venezuela. So the right is always fighting the state for control over what little bit of control the state has, right? But even with those limitations, the state is able to provide housing for everyone. Venezuela just completed a project where they built 4 million units of housing. So it's wild going into Venezuela, a supposed, third world, underdeveloped, failed state country, and not seeing any homeless people in the capital city. But coming back to Washington, D.C., the richest, most powerful city in the richest, most powerful country the world has ever seen, and seeing homeless people camped out in front of Union Station, and seeing them from the train station to my door. You feel me? So it's like you have to go out of the country to dispel, I think, some of the myths that we get about other countries. But you also have to do that to learn about struggle from the people who have actually been successful in struggling against this imperialist nation. And the last thing is, when we do go to these countries, y'all, please know how to act. Know how to act. We don't have any right. There is nothing about our political, whatever it is, that makes us qualified to tell anybody in another country what they should do. I don't care how, that's not solidarity, that's paternalism. And that is such an American. I saw a couple of comrades do it, people who are in supposed organizations, and I'm like, what is y'all doing over here talking about Maduro needs to do this, that, and the third, and Maduro needs to have the Maduro don't need to do shit for us. What we need to be doing is asking indigenous and Afro-Venezuelan and working class and poor people in Venezuela, what can we do to support you from inside the beating heart of imperialism? It's not our job as revolutionaries to go to anybody else's country and tell them, well, this is how you do revolution. We ain't overcome shit over here. We have not defeated a damn thing over here. And we're going to go to somebody else's country and tell their president that they elected, well, you need to have more women and black women and this, that. Man, shut the fuck up and enjoy that food and hotel room that they paid for to bring us. And the government of Venezuela paid for us to come. So,
but Jackie,
don't be shitty out there. Don't be shitty American.
You got to be fair, Jackie. We have Katanji and Kamala.
Man.
So if Maduro needs to be told to get some more black women up in there.
The only people who should be telling Maduro that are the Afro-Venezuelan women that are dealing with the internal contradictions in that country. We have no right. That blew my mind, and just to see the people just being disrespectful of Venezuela.
People from the United States being disrespectful.
But it's not just that they're from the United States. These are so-called leftists. And I'm
like I said, people from the United States being disrespectful.
Y'all are terrible.
What?
You're still American. You just But other than that, it was great. It was great.
This ain't as political, but I remember, and I won't say who did it. Like when we went to Cuba, it's kind of this weird thing. Like for me, there's something I like about some individuals' chauvinism, but there's like places where it needs to be suppressed. Like on one of our trips to Cuba, some of the groups that we brought like some hip hop folks, and they insisted that they had to smoke their weed, and that we were oppressing them because it's like, what? I was like, what? Are you out of your mind right now? It's like, we had to have a whole like debriefing about, so we're in socialist Cuba as guests. Mm-hmm. If you can just for like, a couple of days, but on the other hand, I kind of appreciate the kind of like, a little bit of the kind of like, no, this is my blah, blah, blah. But it gets to be like what you said, because I think it's this, even with politics, I think the chauvinism of Americans, that we are taught that somehow we are the center of the universe. And if we don't get our personal needs met, in addition to, of course, the bigger picture of getting political needs met and economic needs met, right, from the sort of the capitalist class, it bleeds down into people's everyday thinking that somehow they can't do exactly what they want to do when they want to do it, no matter where they're at, that somehow they are the ones being oppressed, as opposed to sometimes you got to curtail what you want to do because there's some larger things out there, which is one of the reasons I think we've been, relatively speaking, not as successful in keeping and building a larger movement, because curtailing our personal desires, needs, wants, egos, a lot of times gets in the way of building larger movements.
Yeah. I think that's true. That's definitely true. But, more on Venezuela on Wednesday night, I think at 7 o'clock, I'll have Carlos Ron on, and we'll get into some of those. I think he'll be willing to talk about some of those kind of internal contradiction, questions about internal contradictions in Venezuela. But I would rather he explain, what's going on in Venezuela than for me to give my, very first time visiting the country and not knowing everything kind of. I just it was just good to be in a place where the people won. They're still struggling to hold on to that victory and to advance socialism and to advance the revolution. But the people, it was dope to be in a place where the people won. The people defeated imperialism that time, and they're still fighting against it. And I think U.S. imperialism will have a very hard time um, actually doing in Venezuela what they've done in other countries, because the people ain't playing. Whatever their internal contradictions are, they know who their enemy is, and they know it's the United States and U.S. imperialism.
So before I offer up you, Jackie, and Kamal a selection from our buffet of stories curated by Sister Erica, I do, since his name was mentioned, want to shout out George Washington, and particularly his mother, Mary Ball, who through the enslavement of my ancestors most likely imposed her name on mine. So thank you very much to Mary Ball Washington, George's mama, and she can still kiss my ass. So yeah, I talked about George Washington's mama.
Have you traced the lineage to be like?
No, I can't prove that. I have not been able to prove it because the trail goes cold for me, at least around the late around the turn of the century, actually. So, but I just assume it. She was a huge,
Enslaver. They were huge enslavers. Yeah, their family.
Right.
And apparently the Ball clan in this country is huge. So I just assume it. But anyway, but yeah, so we do have. I figured we could change it up a little bit. We have select from what maybe to your tasting is we have a variety of delicious story pastries this morning, from state imposition on women's bodies to troubling details of bullying. We have microaggressions and diversity in the workplace. And we have also a delicious offering of states hoarding billions of dollars in welfare funds. Does any of that tickle any of your fancies? We also have a question about the federal mask mandate being lifted. And are you all, for instance, Jackie, you just traveled, are you wearing your face mask on planes and in the airport and all that kind of stuff?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm not getting in a flying tin can or a moving train. I'm not getting with a bunch of maskless. Let me tell you something. Venezuela's COVID protocols for people entering the country, I was jealous. I have never been jealous of another country's approach to medicine before in my life. I mean, they send you through a little disinfecting booth before you even go into the airport. You get into the airport, you have to go through another disinfecting booth. Then you have to go give your proof of COVID vaccination to, that there's a line of medical professionals, all with protective gear on, and then they give you a COVID test right there. So, I mean, this is a country that takes the vaccine seriously, which is why they don't have, body bags lining the streets because of COVID. Where in the United States, I guess we don't have body bags lining the streets, but because the country is so big, so they just put people in trailers and hide them in the parking lots behind hospitals. And folks claim that those people really didn't die from COVID. I don't care what the federal government does. I don't care what this judge has said about this mask mandate. I am wearing my mask because people are disgusting. and they
I
will.
do admit I've fallen off sometimes, and
Nah,
then when I remember, I do a double mask or something. But I mean, I think that obviously there's a lot of hope, not policy or not scientific evidence associated with all across the country, the lifting of the mandates in part. And again, even going back to that previous discussion, it's when Americans get stupid and think their personal liberty somehow is at stake, or some Americans, some people think their personal liberty is somehow at stake because they're required to wear a mask to stop the spreading of a dangerous infection, which is literally at this point killed close to 1 million people in the country. So the fact that you can't even have logical discussions around what's good medical practice, or the best that we know of right now, until something better comes along in terms of, look, we've done this testing, we've had these surveys, and now we're saying to do something new. I accept that as part of the process, of course, but using what we have at hand to try to slow down, get the spreading of the infection to stop seems rational and reasonable. And so, but the politics of having a judge come in and do that seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Shout out to Zenzabel. Appreciate the super chat, saying that they're about to walk to Florida. I'm assuming they're saying that they refuse to get on a plane or to go through the airport or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, just being around. I mean, I'm honestly, it's hard for me to judge the effectiveness of anything at this point, because it seems like everybody's doing whatever they want. So it's hard to understand if, the effectiveness of wearing a mask, if everybody around you is not, if it's like we can wear it in this thing over here, but then we step over here and people take it off. Like, I'm not really clear. It is a little nerve-wracking, and I do see some of the numbers, and even in the story that Ear Doctor is going to bring up later, I mean, it's impacting, continues to impact people in a negative way. So I don't, anyway, I don't know, but that was it. So what about these other stories? Anything, we have, wait a minute. We can always go back to the standard. Speaking of U.S. behavior, and falling back into the norm. Look here, Stockton police fatally shoot Black woman and fire over 30 shots into her car. So we're right back on track, right? A couple convictions, a couple protests, and we're just, right back on track. I have not read the full story. I'm sure there is a sound justification for all of this firepower. They must have been terrified and needing to stand their ground, et cetera, so forth, and so on. But body cam footage released April 7th. Tracy Gaeta, 54 years old, fatally shot after Stockton, California K-9 unit fires more than 30 bullets into her car. So they had K-9s as well, and that just wasn't enough for this 54-year-old woman. Family attorneys are alleging excessive force by law enforcement on Wednesday after Officer Kyle Rivera emptied multiple clips at the grandmother's vehicle in an incident that began with her backing her car into a police patrol car. She never posed a threat and was unarmed. I have to say, just journalistically, I appreciate this little. This is from Black Enterprise, all respect here. I like this little inclusion here. They're clearly trying to frame this in an appropriate way, and even describing it as her backing into a police patrol car. They could have phrased that in any number of different ways to make her look worse. So but
they also could have said allegedly, because again, that's probably the cops' version.
Fair enough, right on.
Yeah,
right.
That's probably the cops' version of what took place. In terms of trying to justify what they did, but I just meant
like, you're right, because
you're right too.
The cop might have said like she slammed into my car, or she
I feared for my life.
Right.
All those tropes will be ushered out over the next few months. to justify the shooting. And we just had the other shooting, at least again, another nationally profiled one last week. I'm forgetting which city where the person was so allegedly again running and was killed by the cop. And so again, these incidents continue. I think there's already been studies that since the Floyd murder, that the number of killings has stayed consistent. But what hasn't stayed consistent is people being out in the street anymore, right? So there again, whether or not this can be studied or not, but there definitely seems to be either a fatigue or readjustment and or the co-opting of movement activities, which we now seem to be going through another quote unquote lull in terms of overall national reaction, right? So that's something to think about and to counter, and the reasons why. Again, people could just be used to it again. Maybe it wasn't the video that people needed to be incensed. But I think also a great deal of it has to do with the idea that folks who were at one point active have seen where the struggle was taken in terms of, again, policy initiatives, depending on our friend Joe Biden to correct the issue. And now seeing that how nothing is being done. In fact, the same Democrats and liberals who told folks to use policy are now the same ones shouting to fund the police even more. So I think all of this stuff also can have a sort of wet blanket effect on people's sort of, I don't know, like not ability, but people's moving out in the streets to fight this stuff again, the way we were doing several years ago now. And several times over the last 10 years, when there were the really big increases in people out in the street fighting against the idea that it's okay to just kill Black people because you have a uniform on.
The claim here is, in addition, that Gaeta hit a police SUV at a red light and then ran. Rivera's unit spotted her and began a pursuit that ended with Gaeta cornered in a dead-end street. She then backed into Rivera's car, and the officer proceeded to fire 18 shots into her car because she had not stopped. But I thought it says she's cornered in a dead-end street. After yelling to raise their hands, Rivera reloads and unloads another clip into her car as Gaeta appears to be reversing from the cop. Why would she do that? She's only being shot. Why would you try to get away?
Why don't you just stand there and obey and be shot?
Yeah. This is so I'm sure what they're going to argue is that millions of dollars more in training would prepare for what? Because an unarmed 54-year-old woman in a dead-end street in a car, I mean, even if she drives away and somehow drives away, why the need to escalate by either high-speed chase or certainly all the firepower? If it seems like anyway, so anyway, why am I trying? I'm already doing too much. It's like you start trying to raise questions like why it doesn't. What are you doing?
Trying to explain the obvious. You can't do.
Trying to put some logic on there. Yeah. Here's the logic. Black people in America, the police are allowed to kill Black people in America under any and every circumstance. That's the logic that they uphold.
Yep. Every institution in America is allowed to kill Black people. I mean,
that's right. That's right.
Not this, but thank goodness, we got shared some bad news, but we have. Oh, wait a minute. I was about to say the foster care community is taking care of the babies, but nope, they're taking millions of dollars from the babies, apparently. Tristan Hunter, let's see, will they go into the story? Let me see where we get. Anyway, the headline is state foster care agencies take millions of dollars owed to children in their care. I hope this isn't going to end up arguing that we need to privatize foster care.
It's going to be the argument that's going to be used.
Never let a good disaster go to waste, right?
Yeah. So I haven't read, obviously I haven't, read the story, but roughly 10% of the foster youth in U.S. are entitled to Social Security benefits, either because their parents have died or because they have physical and mental disabilities, typically more than $700 per month through survivor benefits. So they're apparently not getting that. The Marshall Project and NPR found in at least 36 states and Washington, D.C., state foster care agencies comb through their case files to find kids entitled to these benefits, then apply to Social Security to become each child's financial representative. Wow. A process permitted by federal regulations. Once approved, the agencies take the money almost always without notifying the children, their loved ones, or lawyers. That's wow. That's, you know what? I mean,
as crime goes,
I mean, that is just, that is just, supreme level hustling and well done. Claim to be their reps and take their money. This
is worse than, but remember, I think we talked a few months ago about how your employees will take out death benefits against you. Your employers, I should say, will take out death benefits,
right.
Yeah, against you as an employee and not inform your spouse and make themselves the beneficiary. That's also a phenomenon that's been happening. But so it's like, who gets to do that? Like, and you as the person working there,
no idea.
Have no idea that this is taking place. If you sign some document, it's because HR has put like 15 different documents in front of you to sign. And so you happily signed away because you think it's probably got something to do with health insurance, or if you hear death benefits, your assumption again is that this is going to benefit my family if something happens to me. But oh no, this is going to your employer, who are like, you know what, we can get some dough off of this. And again, the children's thing is worse, of course, because these kids who are already in foster care because something has happened to their parents or some of the relationship is going bad or something, they're there living there, probably trying to survive the way these places work a lot of times, where obviously the best care isn't always given or is an afterthought. And the first thing is like, where's my check from the state? And I'm not saying all foster parents are like this and all foster care is like this, but obviously we've heard too many stories where for too many folks, it's not about taking care of somebody out of sort of the love or compassion, or you think somebody deserves a home, but it becomes a mill where it's like, can I get a check out of this? And then you put another one in, and can I get a check? Then you turn your house into a boarding house or a rooming house, and it's more checks, So it's just the way the system works. It's not about the benefit of the child. It's not about what's in the best interest. It's about people thinking about, hey, can I make some loot off of this? And that's,
And I got to put some of this on Social Security, because I think probably the bigger problem is not the amount of people in foster care being shady, but it's the problem with these institutions not catching the ones who are. And having watched, again, for the better part of a year, my mother's benefits be stolen and Social Security do nothing but give me a hard time in finding out, first stopping the theft of her checks diverted to other people's bank accounts. But then making it literally a year-long process to recoup the lost money, at least some of it. I don't even think we got all of it. And not being willing to check their own process. I mean, it just seems to be too easy to rip them off. So anyway, folks need to get on that.
And
instead
then
of going down and telling Maduro what he needs to do.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, but then when you look at the fact that students, kids in the foster care system rely on that money from SSI to live. So if they don't get it, where do they go? They're homeless. So then you wonder why there are all these homeless kids on the street. Then this is part of the reason. So then we have a system that allows for the theft of benefits to vulnerable children, allows for the abuse of vulnerable children in that system, and then criminalizes those young adults when they become homeless or have other problems because they were, through no fault of their own, brought up in a system that literally profited off of their existence, but didn't give a damn about how they were treated. This is, the whole
off of them getting locked up though.
And then there's that. And then there's that. So I mean, but the really messed up thing is those are like the same arguments as you said, Jared, that the right will use as an excuse. Well, not even right. The neoliberals will use as an excuse. Well, this is why we need to privatize these public services, right?
You know damn well if Walmart was running Social Security, their joint would run smoothly, boy, because you know they love their old folks. They treat their old folks real well. At
They
Walmart.
give them a
We should
chair
just-
to greet at the door and everything.
Give them a nice little smile.
Wow.
Let the Walmart take over. You know, there's only
Well, speaking
seven.
of somebody who's not afraid to commit Social Security fraud, let's bring on their
What?
My bad.
Hold on.
I know the credit card thing used to be the bomb back in the 90s. I ain't gonna say no names, but cats was coming up. Anyway. I ain't saying no names. How many years has it been? Whew, it don't even matter.
Statute of limitations run out. It's free. You're free to talk about it now. Statute of limitations run.
I'm free to talk. And we done knocked Jared off the screen. Hey. So we're gonna do an artist spotlight real quick. He said I'm not part of this. We're gonna do an artist spotlight real quick right here on Black Power Media Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Oh my goodness, y'all. Can.
A fatal killing them on your track.
Yeah. You heard that beats by Ace Fatal. Some dope. We always keep that on deck. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna talk about a certain artist that sent their music in to Black Power Media. That's right. If you got something dope and you want to get some burn and you want to bring it to the doctor's office and see if it could get some play, send it to mediablackpower@gmail.com and I'll check it out and it might get some burn. So with that said, I want to introduce you to one that is called, what's this brother's name real quick? He goes by the name of the Incredible Chuck. That's right, Incredible Chuck. He has an album right here. Let me put you on to it. It is called The Algorithm Is No Match for the Universe. So check it out. Let's get into it right here, right now. And this song is called Fred on His Toes. Check it out.
They might question my love for not just yet. I can't explain much more, but that's just what I plan for. I love when they underestimate my willpower. I keep them on their toes. I love when they underestimate my willpower. I keep them on their toes. I love when they underestimate my willpower. The master plan is roughly loose in its structure, but rigid in its sense of the muster. Separate too many seem to roll the trees in a cluster. Just one like gets exploited, luster. Without balance, you'll eventually buster. Ride the wave and waste the witness the wonders, but watch your step and just turn men into monster. That manipulates the mind into mush. You are strung out in all the products it took. Not to mention all the products it's taken. Doctor, if we was spills than most of people Jamaican. Here's the problem. The nails are missing from the frames of their thing. They might question my love for not just yet. I can't explain much more, but that's just what I plan for. I love when they underestimate my willpower. Keep them on their toes. Underestimate my willpower. What did you expect was gonna fly? I make them look left and go right. There's no way to copy my style. I was trying to lay low for a while. Experiments, cool shit in my lab. So let's rock out 2 kicks in my bag. Before I publish all this real research, check my math. Everybody who thought I was gone, yeah. Let me explain some of what happened and where I've been at. Abduction. First I was brainwashed, and then I was trapped. This won't hurt a bit, Mr. Mournfort. Just try and relax. Once I escaped, my captain promised not to go back. We ran several simulations to get him to crack. The patient's mind is very sharp. We suffered many lacerations. Several top surgeons have also been given stitches. The data shows we should have never played with them. Before I brought this all this real research, check my math. Everybody who thought I was gone, yeah, I'm back. Everybody who thought thought I was going down.
Yeah. That's what it is right there. The Incredible Chuck. That's right. You got production right here done by Mike Soul. So y'all can go to bandcamp.com and go check out that brother, the Incredible Chuck. The name of the album is The Algorithm Is No Match for the Universe. And that's what it is right here on the Remix Morning Show. Now let's get back to the remix. Host with the most. All right.
So I feel like back in the
it
day
was
when
nice.
we heard the fresh sound, what was it, the new jam, and they did the thumbs up, thumbs down on the new jam.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
What?
Oh.
Imagine that from Kamal.
Brooklyn's finest.
I mean,
Yo.
It was the quality of the sound, maybe.
That's-
It was just the quality of the sound.
A better mix.
Was that intentional for it to sound like it was recorded in the bathroom?
Ouch.
I mean, the beat was dope. I mean, but it just maybe what did he intend to have like a vintagey kind of? I don't know. I was just
Boy, y'all hard, boy.
Yes.
I like the rhyming. I like the content. I like the beat. I mean, it was
like
dope.
Black Thought a little bit. He sounded a little like Black Thought to me. I mean, I said it sounded a little bit.
Something.
Jared still has.
I know you're just gonna give a look.
I can't with this dude, man.
Look, I just appreciate artists making art. You know what I mean? We don't all have to, not everything appeals to everybody. Look, we had people criticizing my stuff, my contributions to the channel. Like, imagine that.
Imagine that.
So
right?
imagine that.
Well,
Well, that's your artist spotlight for the day. I'll catch y'all next break. Peace.
Yeah, thank you, Ear Doctor. No doubt. Thank you very much. There was right. He's going to come back and talk about one of the stories we want to cover a little bit later. But let's talk about this story here, where again, I feel like whenever I see, honestly, my first reaction to seeing stories like this is always to start with, why don't we just give everybody health care if people want to, if people want to impose policy and intervene on every aspect of particularly women's lives physically and medically, why can't that include some damn health care? But anyway, facing invasive treatments for uterine fibroids, Black women advocate for better care. Let me see. Let's see if I can find. Many women with fibroids never notice anything amiss, but approximately 25% to 50% struggle with heavy menstrual bleeding, frequent urination, and pain, which can lead to depression, reproductive health issues, and lower work productivity. I'm trying to find where, beyond just the descriptions of these individuals suffering, where the summary of, and I'll come back to it, but I'll just keep looking for it until I find it and let you all carry on. But it just, seems again, Black women are, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I bet you I can summarize for it because I've dealt with this issue, and I had a myomectomy, which is the removal of fibroids from. Now, the first thing you need to understand is doctors don't really know what causes fibroids. Black women are more prevalent in Black women. So I think, and I'm not a medical doctor, but I just think that living in a capitalist, white supremacist, patriarchal, imperialist, warmongering country will do that to you. I just think that's true. So they're really like non-malignant masses of tissue that grow in your uterus, and since you don't have any symptoms, they can grow to be very, very large and obstruct the regular reproductive processes and cause a lot of pain, cause serious lower back pain. But back in the day, probably 20 years ago, um, the only treatment for uterine fibroids, once they were detected, once they were diagnosed and they were detected, you get a sonogram, they'd see how big they were, was at first, maybe 20, 30 years ago, they would perform a hysterectomy, or what they call a subtotal hysterectomy, where they don't remove the entire, reproductive organs. And they would just remove the site where where the fibroids have grown. But then medical technology advanced, surgical technology advanced, and then they would only remove the fibroids themselves and leave the uterus intact, especially if a woman had not had children yet. She was young, and because they wanted to preserve the possibility of her having children, if that's what she wanted. That's what the first treatment that I had when I was first diagnosed with uterine fibroids. The problem with fibroids, though, is that they grow back. Once you are diagnosed with them, once they've been detected, they can be removed through a myomectomy. But 7, 8 times out of 10, they do grow back. And once again, you don't have any symptoms, you don't know. So this is why you should always go and get a regular well woman exam and ask for a sonogram if you can. And this is the problem with our capitalist healthcare system, because unless you are being diagnosed with a reason to get a sonogram, you got to pay for it, right? So this is why a lot of Black women are walking around with a condition that isn't fatal, but it is negatively impacting our quality of life and can cause incredible pain. So now there are different kinds of treatment that can treat fibroids. There's a laser, what is it called? It's where they use lasers to break up and destroy the fibroids. They'll do, or like the robotic kind of removal, where they don't do a surgical incision across your bikini line and open you up and that kind of thing. But basically, if the fibroids do grow back, the second procedure is almost always a subtotal hysterectomy, which is what I had to eventually have. So they'll take out a part of your uterus, they'll keep your ovaries, they'll intact, because they still want you to go, because your hormones control everything, so they don't want to mess that up. And a lot of Black women are not able to, they don't understand the history of, the advancement of the treatment of this condition. And a lot of us don't have access to that good health care that covers any of these treatments well. And a lot of us don't have access to health care at all, where we can get the kind of regular treatment to keep on top of this issue, to get in front of it before it becomes something where we need to have an invasive surgery, or where we need to have surgery. And then when we do get to that point, the only thing that's offered to many of us is an invasive surgery. So this is, it
that
doesn't
seems to
have
be
to be that way, but it is this way.
Just quickly, that seems to be part of the issue here. And the Black women cited in this story are calling for support for Stephanie Tubbs Jones' bill to get more research and study, and that Black women in particular are, as it says here, have their uterus out before they could even blink. That apparently there's a tendency to move too quickly to that level of response, and a lot of Black women are suffering as a result. So, but to your point, Jackie, to the one we started with, I mean, the idea that you would have to still be making appeals to Congress for more research, the idea that some people, Black women in particular, can't get basic attention medically because there's a lack of insurance. I mean, all of this kind of stuff is anyway.
I don't have a lot to add, except to say that individually, I've just known disproportionately too many Black women who have, exactly as Jackie has experienced, have had their reproductive organs sort of snatched out because of the fear of and the pain and everything else, and the stage that it's at and the growth inside. And again, it obviously disproportionately abnormal Black women, but it's prominent within as a condition that Black women suffer. Not obviously not sure why or whatever. And your analysis might be quite correct as to because of where we're at. But just it's one of those things where people just don't get the just the life, not only just the life choices that people have to make and are forced to make because of exactly what you said, the lack of early detection, because of the lack of healthcare, and then the fact that some of these times you have to pay out of your pocket to deal with something that you may not even know that you have, because it's just not part of like a regular thought about as a regular part of your checkup. But yeah, I've just known people who've gone through a lot trying to deal with fibroids and the conditions that it caused. So yeah.
Yeah, and another part of this thing is that a lot of times, which is why, this is one of the things I'm glad that my mother instilled in me early. She said, always have a Black doctor. Always go to a Black doctor, because white people, and my mother, she actually told me, she said, white people do not believe us when we tell them there's something wrong. So, whenever I would go to my doctor to get my regular well woman exam, she would always ask me about my menstrual cycle. And when I began to tell her that they were getting heavier and the cramping was getting worse, I had always had really bad cramps. She started paying more attention to, well, let's get you a sonogram, And this, I was in my mid-20s when I was diagnosed with uterine fibroids. And by that time, they had already grown to the point where they needed to have been removed. So this is not something that is, a lot. I appreciate homeopathic medicine. I appreciate alternative, natural remedies and that kind of stuff. There's value in it, but I really do not want us to act like the white medical community, that when Black people tell you, look, I have a problem, it's not being addressed by the medical community, it's causing me pain and discomfort, and it's going to cost me money I don't have to address. I would like for us not to respond with, well, our problem is we fat, we don't eat right, we don't exercise, we don't. Nobody knows what causes uterine fibroids. No one knows. That's, and so, but I think that is so beside the point. Once you get to a point where you have to have a medical procedure to remove something from your body that is causing you pain and that is interrupting the natural operation of your reproductive system, I'm not interested in how sedentary people are. I just want us to be able to get the kind of medical care that we deserve as human beings. And I just feel like so much of that is like a sidetracking of the issue of the fact that Black people are not believed or listened to in American medical communities, because they really do believe that we can endure more pain, that we're usually lying, and that we're just trying to get some drugs.
So from that very macro aggression, we do have a story about microaggressions, and shout out to the late Dr. Chester Pierce. Although I can't help but laughing at this headline here, what InfoWars bankruptcy filing means for Sandy Hook families who sued Alex Jones for calling school massacre a hoax. I thought he was making hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyway, sorry about that. Microaggressions, diversity, and career advancement, why Black workers are joining the Great Resignation. I haven't, with all due respect to Fortune magazine and to Amaya Taylor here, I haven't read this story, but I can't imagine that there needs to be a lot of research put to why many Black or other working people would not want to go back to their job. It's not that complicated. The jobs suck, they underpay, they're overworked, their bosses mistreat them, they don't have benefits, and why wouldn't people want to work less if working doesn't, anyway. But as the Great Resignation continues and workers migrate to new positions with better benefits and greater salaries, not every employee's motivation is the same for transitioning to a different role. Generally speaking, workers are seeking out new employers for potential wage increases. 49% of the workforce believe they'll make more money just by switching jobs, and compensation was the top point of consideration for most workers, 53%, when it came to accepting or rejecting a new job, per the 2022 Job Seeker Nation report. Black workers, however, were more likely to seek different jobs because of a lack of career momentum. And an estimated 8 million Black Americans left their jobs in 2021. And one of the factors to blame for the mass exodus was systemic glass ceilings. While Black employees are highly likely to be enterprising, 65% of Black professionals labeled themselves as ambitious, as opposed to 53% of white professionals, according to Coco's Being Black in Corporate America report. They still face high promotion gaps in comparison to their white peers. Black employees left early career jobs in droves due to barriers to advancement, such as a lack of allyship and support in the workplace, according to a study by McKinsey. But those were not the only issues that were driving high attrition rates for Black workers. Nearly a quarter, 23% of Black men feel someone of their race or ethnicity would never achieve a top position at their companies, per Being Black in Corporate America. And almost 2/3 of Black professionals, 65%, said Black employees have to work harder to advance, the report found. But the problem is that they're not advancing. It continues with just, it looks like more of the same and just some details. Black employees account for just 7% of managers, according to McKinsey. 1% of Fortune 500 CEOs are Black. Black women in particular are severely underrepresented in senior leadership roles, accounting for just 1.4% of C-suite positions and 1.6% of VP roles, according to the link. So, I mean, to me, they're calling this, I guess, microaggressions, but to me, it's more of the same as all the other workers.
To me, this is why. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, not to say. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say this is why the propaganda model is so important these days, right? There was once a time where they didn't care about Black workers because Black workers we were so at the lower end of the echelon, denied the vote, and so forth and so on. But since the 60s and 70s, this is one of the reasons why when you see the Democratic Party convention or the Republican Party convention, it's so important to highlight Black people. It's so important to put Black people behind but to put Black people behind the candidates as they're speaking or something like that. It's so important to put Black folks as cops in TV shows, or so important that now they're putting more marketing behind showing Black faces. Because the realness of it is that employment opportunities, particularly in the private sphere, but every place, for Black people are garbage, and they've always been garbage. And we continue to quote stats that point out how life is for Black workers. The fact that half of Black workers make make less than $15 an hour in the whole country. And that's why the hustle is so real. That's why street life is so real. It's not that people always are like, who gonna work at McDonald's when I can make more on the streets doing some other stuff, right? That's a logical choice. Even if part of your job description is that you got to put up with cops bothering you or chasing you or potentially going to arrest. Who can feed their family on like $8 an hour? Who gonna feed themselves on $8 an hour? You got to think of alternative hustles, legal or illegal. And that's why it's so important, because we know that the larger economy is a propaganda game. Is to make us think that opportunities exist, and if the opportunities, if we don't seize opportunities, it's because we're not doing enough. And so now it's thrown back on us, and then we have all this Black representation trying to show us that if we only did it right, that this is what will happen. Where the larger economy tells us what really happens in these places And that everybody knows from their own personal experiences. Like so many times you hear the stories about like, yeah, I'm leaving that job because of ABC. I'm leaving this job because of this. Even in the so-called, Black professionals. How many lawyers I know who left their corporate positions that they got because they did it because they thought they were going to pay down their bills, and then they're going to leave because they know the glass ceiling is there. So, it's just all, like you said, like a microcosm, but really another macro story about how the economy works. It don't work for us, but the propaganda model is there to reinforce for us that it's not these corporations that won't give us jobs and positions and so forth. The problem is that we don't do enough to get these positions, or we don't comport ourselves, or look at all the heroes that have been created for us, from Obama to Kamala to the new judge, that like it's open for them. Something must be wrong with you. And the economy, and so there's never a deep look at how the economy actually works.
Well, one who can never have a ceiling placed on him is
look,
the ear doctor.
Shouldn't one fall on him? But
he's literally in the skies.
He is ascended
above the clouds, like my man Guru. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to get into a quick break, and I'm going to put you on to a brother that we got to give our respect and props to. So stick around and get down with the get down. Let's go. All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And at this time, I wanted to give just due to a good brother that just made his transition at the age of 55. A great part of hip hop culture from the beginning to the end. He goes by the name of DJ K. Slay. That's right, DJ K. Slay, also known as Keith Grayson. Comes straight out of New York, New York. He was a DJ, a record exec. He's referred to as hip hop's one-man ministry of insults. That's right. He gets on the mic and he'll tell you about yourself. He released 4 studio albums: Street Sweeper Volume 1, Street Sweeper Volume 2, The Champions, North Meets the South, with Greg Street, and More Than Just a DJ. Pretty much he started off as a graffiti artist. You might have seen him in the 1983 hip hop documentary Style Wars. That's right. He started out, his name was Desi Dez. That's right. He was known on the scene, hitting up the trains and everything. He came up seeing hip hop from the beginning with the graffiti, with the elements of hip hop. We talking about coming up with DJs like Grandmaster Flash, Grand Wizard Theodore, Cool DJ Red Alert in the 1970s and 80s. He pretty much was doing the graffiti for a while, and then after that, graffiti kind of died down. Crack came in, started selling some crack, and this, that, and the third. Got locked up, but came back out harder than ever, and started doing mixtapes. So he did a Street Sweeper Volume 1 back in 2003. It had all types of people on there. We're talking about, he brought people from the North, people from the South, people from the islands, put them all on one mix. I mean, this was the beauty of this guy. Everybody respected him because of his deep love of the hip hop culture. So he's been doing it. What happened is he got caught up with COVID, and went to the hospital, and COVID took him out. Another great brother that did his thing. He had a song called Rolling 110 Deep. That's right. This song had like 110 artists. Song was like for 40 minutes. You had people like Shaquille O'Neal on there. You had KRS-One and MC Shan. You had Roy Jones. You had Omar Epps. You had Capleton. All types of. Did he have Capleton? We had another reggae artist on there, but you're talking about different genres all on one album. This dude has done over 30 mixtapes, singles out the yin yang, got some of his songs on video games and everything. So we got to give it up to this brother, DJ K. Slay. Thank you for your contribution to this hip hop culture and me as a DJ. Thank you. Thank you very much for everything you've done. Never got to meet you, but brother, thank you. So right there, let's take it back to the Remix Morning Show and let's talk about it. All right, let's go.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace to K Slay, man. The drama king, aka slap your favorite DJ. I mean,
Yeah.
I you know, as a mixtape enthusiast, having done some research on the history of mixtapes, he was a major figure.
Yeah.
And I used to love the fact that he would call out DJ Clue as messing up the mixtape game. Like he was like he was thorough. Anyway, that's a shame. He'll be missed. So,
and what happened is also I would like to add is when he got sick with COVID, him and Kid Capri got sick at the same time. He decided to go to the hospital. Kid Capri decided to stay home and deal with it. So, like we always say,
don't do that. Don't do that.
No,
don't
listen. I'm
don't
talking.
Do that. Don't do that.
Let me finish. When we was talking about hospitals and we talking about going to these hospitals and dealing with these white people that don't really know how to deal with you, and just like a mechanic, you can go in there and have an oil change and come out. They talking about you got this problem and that problem. Listen, I don't trust these hospitals neither, and that's the point I'm getting at. So.
That's not sound advice, and that's not.
My sound advice is me. Actually, I go to holistic doctors. Find a good doctor that you can trust, and don't go to these hospitals.
That's not sound advice. I do not co-sign that. Yeah, yeah.
Nobody's
continue with the case, like
nobody's second step.
But there's no evidence. But don't use. But with all due respect to K Slay, don't use his death to make your point when you don't know any of the facts related to his death. You could, because I could do the same thing and say maybe he didn't have his vaccine.
Didn't we just talk about not trusting hospitals?
No.
But again,
no.
No, actually, no.
Did we just talk about
we talked about how the medical industry, how it works, how folks can't afford treatment, how folks don't have health care. That's what we talked about. And so you're conflating things. I won't even talk about that brother's death. I won't even,
and without evidence is the issue. Like it's and in fact, what we were arguing is that if we had more healthcare and more access to more of the medical community, we would be better off. So you could say I'm wrong in that, but don't misrepresent what I was arguing earlier. And I don't think it's fair to make your point with K Slay's death without any facts. So
we on this screen, we see different about the whole COVID thing, but I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that's not. I don't think that's anyway. We're clear. Okay, all right. I think our points have been made.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Big up to that brother. Like I said, he represented all the elements of hip hop when it came to the DJ, the MC, graffiti artist, breakdancing, and the fact that he brought all these different genres together on one track, a 40-minute track. I think that's almost the Guinness Book World Records when it comes to hip hop track.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually have that in my favorites or whatever. And it is amazing. And what is also amazing about that, and shout out to all the MCs he has on that, is that you never get bored. Like it's not where you're like, dang, it's the same beat for 40 minutes. Or I mean, I didn't get that effect because the MCs do their thing on it. It's well produced. The video is sharp. And that he attempted something like that is testimony to his legacy.
No doubt. And that's what it is. Yo, we get 10 more viewers. We're gonna have a mix at the end of the show. So tell somebody to come on and check it out. I'll catch y'all later.
Peace.
Let's do that. Let's get a couple more folks in here and get that ear doctor mix at the end of the show. So a couple. At least one other story that I have here is
what's going on with the state stealing the welfare money?
I mean, well, we can't have all these folks just living and chilling for free.
What?
because you know how welfare is, Jackie.
It makes you lazy. It makes you
it's champagne
lazy.
and caviar all day.
It makes
That
you
It's
lifestyle.
bonbons and
New TVs.
and yeah.
welfare is what makes us fat and have fibroids. That's what it is.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
mean-
government, for taking it away.
So it says here states are hoarding. Let me just see who this is from. ProPublica. States are hoarding $5.2 billion in welfare funds, even as the need for aid grows. Let's see. Bonnie Bridgeford supported 5 children with $8.50 an hour. That's
Jesus.
pretty easy to do. That's easy to do. It's just a little bit of management. But the state, like so many others, was sitting on a huge stockpile of funds. She doesn't need more than $8.50 an hour for 5 kids.
Those kids can alternate eating on even days of the week. They'll be fine.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? A good loaf of bread, 99 cents. Throw some
peanut butter?
You know what I'm
Come
saying?
on.
That's
And
a meal
that's-
for 3 days. 3 days.
I was about to say a week, but you know, but maybe Kamal's group is greedy.
We
Doing
were.
it 3 days like that. Would you greedy?
Our poor
Brooklyn
man
ass?
food was rice with ketchup on it. That's when things was hard back in the day.
Rice with ketchup.
I'm saying that was the hard day. That was like the day
That
when
was-
something went wrong, something happened.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not. No shade
Mom
thrown.
spent too
I
much
just
of that.
never
my mom
heard
spent
that.
too much of that food stamp money on some, some champagne, that
On
she
some
was opt to
champagne.
do. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Her new fur coat she spent. So we had to have the rice and the ketchup on it.
Mm.
I don't know if we had a go-to. I just am having a flashback of cheese sandwiches and pretzels. So, but I was spoiled out here in these tree-lined streets. So,
Yeah.
you know,
White rice was always the staple crop.
and rice is rice is there's everybody does rice, so no question.
And
but just
bologna and mashed
yeah.
potatoes.
boom. So that's what put in the chat. What was that?
If you grew up poor,
But we
was the
also
state-
got government
when you
cheese.
know
so-
when you know that things like when your moms and dads had to make ends meet, and for whatever reason the check didn't go as far as it should have, what would you get served that night? You know what I'm saying? Ours was rice and some ketchup.
Mm.
It was like, okay, something went wrong. Somebody.
So, but this is saying that the 5.2 billion is just sitting there in unspent funds from the Federal Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. Nearly 700 million was added to the total during the 2019-2020 fiscal years, with Hawaii, Tennessee, and Maine hoarding the most cash per person living at or below the federal poverty line. So, I mean, so it's there, it's just sitting there, but I don't know. $8.50 an hour seems pretty fair to me. It's only 5 kids and a parent. I don't,
and
I don't
that's
know.
TANF. That's food stamps. That's literally food stamps that the states are just like they don't need to eat. They're fine.
She's good.
Yeah.
And by the way, when people talk about, and I'm sure it would happen here with the woman pictured there, that say, well, how could she be poor if she's that big? I mean, that's often the opposite of how things work, because the poor, the most unhealthy, fattening foods are often the cheapest and most accessible.
That's right.
So,
That's why there's so many drive-throughs in our neighborhoods. That's not, people talk about liquor stores. It's like, how many drive-throughs?
Right.
How many fast food restaurants
Fast food
can you put
joints
into one neighborhood, B?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go up the strip, it used to it used to be KFC, McDonald's and KFC used to be the biggies. And Popeyes and took that over, and since then everything else. But that's what it is. High caloric intake, a lot of salt. Boom. Fill your stomach up, expand your stomach, you good.
And the food, the processed food that's in the boxes, and it lasts longer. It can last 30 days. You can't. People are always talking about, oh, you need to buy all this fresh food. I grow food. I better eat it within a week, or else it turns to mush. So I mean, you can't, if you know that you're not gonna have any money for groceries until the next time your food stamps come in, you need to buy all your food at once, and you need to buy food that is going to not spoil between now and the next time you can go to the grocery store and buy food. So that's where a lot of people's quote unquote unhealthy eating comes from. It's not because people choose not to eat well, it's because people literally cannot afford to eat well.
And remember, usually, even unless they got a disability, and even if they do, usually the public assistance, again, is just one of the hustles. You know what I mean? I got, bartending. My mom used to bartend, like, with tips and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the hustle. The illicit trade, you need to buy things that you can't buy on stamps. How you selling stamp? Back in the day we had the funny money, the funny colored money. You would sell that for a discount. We didn't get a card back in the day. You sell that so you can get some cash. You can get some other things that you need in your household. So the hustle is real. It's all about that. It's all like one thing. They keep it all that. They keep it all that for themselves at the state level because they're going to apply it someplace else anyway. I bet you it'll go into some cop cars.
Yep.
Isn't that what, like, the COVID money? Like, part of the thing was the COVID money got redirected, and a lot of it got into cop cards. So,
Hey, shout out to moms and bartenders. I bartended briefly. It is all a hustle. That whole industry is just one big hustle. And I got mine in. I just didn't do it well enough and got fired. She called me in the back. I was drunker than everybody who came through the bar that night. And she said, how did you have a bar full of your friends at your birthday party? And the tab was, I think it was like $30. I did tonight. And I'm sitting there wobbling like this.
I don't know what happened, boss.
My girlfriend at the time waiting outside to drive me home. I was like, woo!
Oh my God!
She's paying me and everybody under the table,
Yeah, I forgot the comic who did the joke was they were mad because it was like they came into the fast food, they came into like either McDonald's or whatever, and they were like, the manager called them over. It was like, you got to work fries. Like, fries? I'm not working fries. I need to be at the cash register. I can't work no fries because the money was.
I had my Wendy's hustle, boy. I had my Wendy's drive-through hustle, boy. Every order over $5, I added $1 to the joint and pocketed the money. And nobody caught. I was walking home with cash on the daily. Boy, I was loving that one, boy. I was proud of that one. I was proud of that hustle, boy. I don't know what you could do now. I mean, they seem too highly technical now.
And they got cameras all over.
More surveillance.
Yes. Cameras everywhere. Yeah. Everything is digital. It's not. Yeah.
You do it.
Shout out to whoever's getting the hustle.
Well, that's, I remember I was driving, I'm going to name names again, but I was driving to BLA people to a spot, and this is during COVID, and they were just saying, damn, with all the mask mandates, imagine what we can get done today.
Honestly, every time I put on my mask to this day, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else. Like every time I'm putting it on, I'm like, no, you're just going to the store. You're just getting groceries. Chill. Because I'm like, wait a minute. This is, you're right. This is.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only thing to counter surveillance, right? Because the surveillance state is so real, where they have the cameras that can pin, literally, all these door knocks, these ring doors, all that literally can trace you backwards from your every step. So once they got a lead on you, it's like, they can, like the cameras at the signals, the private cameras, your door cameras. You can't do no crime today. I mean, you can't do it the way you used to. There's other folks who are like sophisticated in the back, the hardware and the computer and all that kind of stuff, but you can't do what you used to do.
So check this out. There is one story I did want to share here, and trust me, everybody, this does not have to be. I would love to do this as a crypto story, but I think we could do it as a parallel to what Kamal was just saying in terms of new forms of old hustles. So in other words, the only reason to pull out to pinpoint the fact of crypto's involvement would be to say it's just a new way of pack formation to scuttle what is seen to be a more progressive candidate. So I don't know what everybody thinks of Nina Turner. I have not, the Democratic Party thing for me is whatever. her friendliness with Killer Mike is whatever, her economic, at least the friendly economic support and allegiance with Killer Mike is whatever. But the point still is, the idea is that she's too progressive. So a crypto PAC throws in $1 million to back Ohio Rep. Chantel Brown over Nina Turner. I don't know the details of Brown versus Turner, other than I suspect Brown is far more corporate, I don't know, Israel friendly, whatever. And we could probably, guess what if we don't know and crypto is just being used here, despite some of the claims of its revolutionary potential, to be doing some of the same old political chicanery nonsense that is going on. And the only other thing I would bring up is that shout out to the Intercept. I do not co-sign the Intercept or this journalist here, Ryan Grimm, but I am shouting them out because Lee Fang of the Intercept has got to be given an award for one of the worst takes on the Brooklyn subway incident by attaching this to Black identity extremism and saying that the FBI was right in calling that out as a potential threat. Please go check our video.
And then I heard Glenn Greenwald double down
Absolutely.
on it.
Double down on his buddy. Yep. Said, I told you. He said, and his point was, Glenn's point was even sweeter because he was saying, you all were saying it's wrong to be critical of Black identity extremism. And I told you, the FBI, I told you, you all are scared to look in the hard truths that me and my buddy Lee can look at. So he was all, they're just a mess. But as I reminded someone, we have to remember, Glenn Greenwald proudly admits, like many others of his ilk, that they only got quote unquote radicalized after Obama proved to be a failure for them. So these are brand new so-called, radicals. If
they're white people, they're white people, they're white people, and I just
who's ventured off into thinking that he's going to somehow bring Trumpers over to whatever if he gets involved with their issues. I mean, I really did like that dude at one point. I thought when he was on mass media and when he was defending Snowden, I thought he had such a correct line. He started doing things with my man Chomsky. He just seemed like he was representing. And I didn't even mind him. Obviously, I liked him. That was the stamp of approval when he was up there with Chomsky. I said, yes.
But Ricky, I need you to catch up because I haven't looked at Jimmy Dore in over a year. So catch up now. Come on now. Come on. Keep up. I'm on to RM Brown now. My new favorite YouTuber is RM Brown. So
I'm not watching any of these.
I don't think I have a new favorite wife. I mean, it should be the young cats, right? Marte and
Aaron Mate. I'm never gonna forget that.
That's not what's his
Aaron Mate, the AA Ron of journalism. He don't want to. But my man, my only problem with Aaron is I keep saying you're gonna promote Peniel Joseph and then throw a Gerald Horn quote in my face when I try to help you out a little bit and give you some game on it. I was like, come on, man. But
no.
Is Parente still around? The son or the father? Which one is alive?
Who?
Christian Parente. I thought I didn't know Michael passed. Actually, I thought he.
I might be making that shit up.
Whatever.
Look at
these folks on my calendar like this. Look at these folks on my calendar.
Tell them, Big Teal. You tell them. Y'all tell them.
About? We've been on the air a year. Come on.
That's true, Jared. They got a point. It ain't been no year. It ain't been a year. You've been bringing up on a remix like 4 months ago. Ricky, you might got a point. Y'all and Big Teal might have a point. He just gave up
a little bit. I mean, anyway, but that whole thing about crypto. That whole thing about crypto, backing Brown. They do know it all. Nothing gets past the chat, y'all. Yeah, I mean, it's just another way that the Democratic Party is showing you that they really don't give a shit about you. They really. I mean, the squad backed Chantel Brown over Nina Turner.
They did?
Oh, wow.
Members of the squad did. Yeah, they did. So all this pushing Biden to the left, and we need to vote.
She has that Bernie stench on her still, right?
Remember that. In her last race, they came out against her. They put money behind the other. I don't know if this is a repeat of the race or she's running for another office, but they came out against her when she seemed to have a lead in the polls. And then the Democratic establishment said, like, oh, hell no, and put money, time, and resources behind the other candidate. And that candidate zipped ahead and hasn't looked back. So, and again, like similar, I'm not, there's certain things about Ms. Turner, I don't, her international politics, at the very least, seem to be very problematic for me. She needs to do more study and reading, I think, in that particular area. Obviously, I think on the domestic front, she might be as good as you get for mainstream politics right now, who at least has the ability to get elected. So not mad at her on that level, and I certainly think she'd be better in terms of instead of any corporate candidate that the Democrats themselves are pushing. Once you know the corporate money's behind somebody, then you know you should be running the other way.
That's true. Well, I gotta go, y'all. So I'm gonna put my mask on. Yes, I do.
Did my man in the room? Did my man come in the room?
Is the voice in the room?
No.
First, I need to apologize to you guys because I'm supposed to. I've had to cancel a couple of times. Let me do that here on the remix. Because y'all be trying to have the live hour at 3. Can y'all move the live hour up to like 1 or 2? I can pick up my kids at 2. Can you talk to
Your
the
kids ain't our
management
problem
about that? Can you talk to management
kids
about that?
are not our problem. No.
I need to talk to management about that.
No, there's no.
Because when I come to host the show, I think we might have to have a time shift when I take.
I'm the manager.
You the manager?
No.
I'm never going to.
I gotta go. I gotta go out there and make my coffee. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Peace, Jackie. Manny Nile.
Who did somebody say was a good new white person to watch?
Oh, there's some good ones. Just real quick. We've been trying to get the voice on BPM for a minute, so his absence is not our fault. That's his fault. He's big time in us. That's what it is. We had some good white suggestions though. My defense of R.M. Brown is that he's the only one that actually makes me bust out laughing for real, literally, when I watch his show. So I got to give him credit. Like he literally cracks me up. But when you talk about, Ben Norton, Scott Ritter,
Ben Norton. Well, Scott Ritter's got a little problems, though. I mean, Ritter was. There's no other way to say it, right? He was convicted for child pornography. And
Scott Ritter?
Yeah, don't you know the story, B? Scott Ritter,
the political analyst?
The political analyst who at one point was huge on the left because he was one of the first ones, right, to come out. He was the first one to come out and, one of the first people who came out because he used to be an insider and talked about how there were no weapons of mass destruction, right? So later, like this is, years later, he was convicted. I don't know all the details, but it didn't seem to be something that he, I think he took a plea. And, I don't know how long he's been now. He's making his way back. Not saying anything about his journalism career, but there's some other things that. Are you looking it up now? You Google it now?
I was trying to Google it real quick, but it's too involved. I don't want to get distracted because I can already see like some of the headlines at least are saying that it was a sting operation. Some of it, it's behind a computer screen. He didn't know who he was chatting with. I don't know, but
it was like So he's got.
I never heard any of that though. So damn.
No, it's
Richard Medhurst is not white.
Who is it white?
Richard Medhurst is not white.
What about the other one that I can't remember their names.
Tim Wise? Nah, son. You got to be joking, right? That's a troll joke, Jay. Stop playing it. Stop playing. The one time I crossed Tim Wise's path was the last time I crossed paths with the founders of the Backwards hashtag in person, that is. At an event, we were both speakers in succession at this event, and that's as close to Tim Wise as I've gotten. And now I'm not surprised it was at that event, and that I am no longer in those circles. But dude has a strong hustle, and he's skilled on the mic. Like
I agree with
he's
that.
a good speaker.
He talks fast.
Talks fast. He's engaging.
Erudite.
I just don't find him compelling politically.
I feel like he's the white version of Michael Eric Dyson. I feel like he looked at Michael Eric Dyson and studied and wrote. I just mean like lyrically speaking, like with the way he uses.
No, like, I get it. I like that.
You do a Mike. You're doing a Michael Eric Dyson thing right here. You're doing the white version.
That reminds me. Speaking of allegations that have not been followed up on, Dyson got a whole bunch of them from Georgetown to Vanderbilt.
Oh,
so Dyson got some people. Check that out. There's some. I don't know what's real. This is some allegations. Some sisters out of Georgetown accused him of. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, it's just some allegations that seem to have not gotten the due attention, but. Real quick, I did mean to shout out and please check it out if folks haven't seen it. Ice Cold Carter, Brother Belay, Warrior Class, shout out to Balagoon Omanike. That Ice Cold Carter joint is hilarious, and I want to say publicly, I am co-signing any endeavor on BPM to push that forward. I even made the joke. I hope people get it, that Ice Cold Carter is to Warrior Class what Better Call Saul is to Breaking Bad. I want more. So that joint is hilarious, and bring that back. So shout out to the Warrior Class, Belay, and Ice Cold Carter. That joint, we definitely need more Ice Cold Carter. So anyway, and looking what else we need some more of. The Ear Doctor coming with that special 250 mix.
250. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, like I said, man, congratulations to us for making it a year. How about that? Remix Morning Show tomorrow, 420. Light it up. We're gonna light it up right here on the well, we're not gonna light it up, but we're gonna light it up right here on the Remix.
If it was on, we light it up. She was like, what? She's like, I don't know what you mean. Like,
Kim celebrates our anniversary on the daily.
Every day.
Oh, she'll be
every
on
day is a BPM anniversary for Kim.
she'll definitely be lit up. Hey, so also in the chat room, I don't know what I'm going to do this Sunday for Sunday. So if y'all got any suggestions, go ahead and put it in the chat room. I am thinking of De La Soul. I'm thinking of a De La Soul mix, just because. But
how about a whole native tongues joint?
Ooh.
Yeah, some JBs. Speaking about house.
See, okay, I like that. I can mix a whole bunch of different ones. I like that. See, Jared, no need y'all in the chat room. We're done.
The Beige Brigade comes through.
Coming through. Yo, I'm glad we gave old boy a little bit of shine. You know what I'm saying? He got his 5 minutes of fame, but it's back to work right here on the Black Power Media, and giving y'all this good news. Y'all can take out there and do what you want to with it. You know what I mean? So there was a whole lot of house music I didn't get to play. Kim Brown is in the building. Something about you damn right. Pick up, Kim. We see you in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and end off on a little bit of house music, and we're going to check y'all tomorrow. That's what we're going to do. So let's get to it. Let's go. Come on.
Lady, hear me tonight, 'cause my feeling
so right as we dance by the moonlight. Can't you see you're my delight? Lady, I just feel like I won't get you out of my mind. I feel love for the first time, and I know that it's true. I can tell by the look in your eyes.